You asked me what do I think about life, and I would first start by taking a couple of steps back and respond to what I think about the question. I think the question makes no sense whatsoever, and that is not a bad thing. That is not criticism. I think that many philosophical questions don't make much sense. It is similar to when Augustine of Hippo, also known as Saint Augustine, is ask himself, what is time? And he'll say, if they don't ask me, I know. If they ask me, I don't know. In response to the question of what is time. And so, what do you make about life? It's like the question, what is time? It's a question meant to elicit philosophical thought, but that in itself, it A, cannot be answered, and B, in answering it, one only gets more deeply into a confusion than by not answering it. So I will engage with the question, and if not by answering, by suggesting that that kind of question elicits that philosophical behavior. And I was there for many years. I was prompted by philosophical questions such as what is life? And reading Ludwig Wittgenstein in great detail, and from Bogota, Colombia, of all places, where there was a rather vibrant community of Wittgenstein scholars, made me abandon those questions, really, dissolve them rather than solve them, but dissolve them. And also much of philosophy. I think that philosophy is over for the most part, that there are entire branches of philosophy, epistemology, ontology, that have either faded away or become naturalized, normalized, institutionalized in philosophy departments. So when folks would say it's a pity that no one in philosophy departments does philosophy anymore, I would say, no, I think they're actually doing philosophy, and the history of philosophy, which is best undertaken in German departments or French or even Spanish departments, right? It's a different sort of endeavor, and that's not a bad thing. I don't think that we should be claiming philosophy as if there's something that we lost. So people in the humanities, in Spanish, German, and French, and so on departments working with literature are better endowed than institutional, narrowly defined philosophers to engage with a question such as what is life, or what do you make of life? And so I think of poets also that I study, and literary authors. I think of León de Greiff, who's a really fascinating Colombian poet. And he says in Relato de Sergio Stepansky, juego mi vida, cambio mi vida, de todos modos la llevo perdida. So I gamble my life, I lose my life, it's all fine, I have it lost anyway. Loose translation. That is a nihilist position, of course, right? But it's also a very joyful, playful nihilist position. And so if I were to try and find a meaning to life, which is what the question invites, philosophically speaking, I would perhaps point in the direction of that poem, because León de Greiff is dead, and by accepting this kind of invitation to do this recording, I am dead too, because this will survive me as a medium, and it will be watched, perhaps, if at all, after I'm gone. And so it's similar in that regard to that poem, which tell us about the meaning of life, and the meaning of for León de Greiff to become León de Greiff, and to give in all of his life over to that author and to that poem. This is also something that Jorge Luis Borges, the Argentine writer, writes about in Borges y Yo, right? When he says, no sé quién habla, si es Borges or soy yo. It's not an exact quote. The point, though, is that what is left of Borges' life is that poem, and that is true of all of us. So if we are looking for meaning, as philosophers are wont to do, we might as well try and find it in the works, which would be my answer to that question. So the second question is about a representative idea or thought I'd like to share in 5 minutes. And similarly to the first question, this would have to do with the medium itself. Folks are watching this on a screen, probably a small one, carving time between endeavors. And I find that incredibly problematic. I think that literature provides an escape from the choppiness of modern life. And so I would perhaps use these 10 minutes to end all 10-minute segments. And I'm playing something of a devil's advocate, I guess. But there is a cultural critic by the name Jonathan Beller who wrote a very interesting book called something like The Critique of Attention Economy. It might not be the cinematic. Look it up. It's there. It's all on Google. 2 minutes. You'll find it. Less than that. Jonathan Beller, though, he'll say that there is an attention economy. And so we distribute our very limited attention, and actually we don't even choose how we distribute it, because we are prodded, prompted by different attention grabbing devices and media and genres. And so it's become more and more of a luxury to actually focus and devote a significant amount of time to thinking through a problem or analyzing, enjoying a work of art. And that's where I think that the role of literature today, which is what I wanted to talk about, is so important, because in a world built on interruption, literature is built in contemplation. And by that I don't mean necessarily contemplation in a high-minded humanist sense. It can be even angry contemplation, but it's definitely not gratuitous or brief. And so we ask, what is the role of literature today, when you can have a book on Amazon and have it delivered to a device? And so I think precisely the role of literature comes when there are things that cannot be consumed in that way. Literature is more like a very big log of wood that if you throw it to the fire of easy consumption and a short attention span, there's very little that this very big log of wood is going to be consumed by that flame. So that idea is simple, and this video is not literature. I'd rather recommend folks to go out and spend a lot of time without interruption, handling one central intellectual pursuit.